Scary telling.
I wake up in a truck stop diner, my head throbbing and my vision blurry. I try to sit up, but my arms won't cooperate. That's when I notice the blood. My hands are covered in it, and there's blood all over my clothes. I look around and see that the diner is empty except for me. I try to remember how I got here, but my mind is a blank. Suddenly, the TV in the corner catches my eye. A news report is playing, showing footage of a police station where a mass killing has just occurred. I see myself on the screen, my face distorted in the reflection of the TV, as the reporter announces that I am the prime suspect. My heart starts to race as I realize that I have no memory of what happened. How did I end up here, covered in blood? And why do the police think I'm a killer? I try to stand up, but my legs buckle beneath me, and I collapse onto the sticky diner floor. That's when I notice the pair of scissors in my hand. They're dripping with blood too. I feel a cold shiver run down my spine as I realize that I must have done something terrible. But what could have driven me to such an act of violence? I manage to crawl over to the door and push it open, revealing a deserted truck stop parking lot. It's the middle of the night, and there's no one around. I stumble outside, clutching the scissors in my hand, and try to get my bearings. I see a sign for the highway and start walking towards it. I don't know where I'm going, but I have to get away from here before the police find me. As I walk, my mind starts to fill with images. Flashes of blood and violence, screams and pain. I try to push them away, but they keep coming back. I realize that I need to find a place to hide, somewhere I can try to piece together what happened. But where can I go? Who can I trust? As I continue walking down the dark highway, the weight of what I've done starts to crush me. I know that I can't keep running forever, but I can't face the consequences of my actions either. All I can do is keep moving, hoping to find some kind of answers before it's too late. I keep walking along the highway, my mind racing with thoughts of what I might have done. The darkness is oppressive, and the silence is only broken by the sound of my footsteps on the pavement. After what seems like hours, I see a sign for a nearby town. My heart lifts at the thought of finding a place to hide, but then it sinks as I remember that the police are probably searching for me there as well. As I get closer to the town, I see the flashing lights of a police car in the distance. Panic grips me, and I start to run, the scissors still clutched tightly in my hand. I turn down a side street, hoping to lose the police, but I can hear their footsteps echoing behind me. I duck into an alley and hide behind a dumpster, holding my breath as the police run past. Once they're out of sight, I start to move again, keeping to the shadows and avoiding any main streets. I'm exhausted and thirsty, but I dare not stop to rest. I have to keep moving if I want to stay alive. Eventually, I find a deserted park, and I collapse onto a bench, trying to catch my breath. The adrenaline rush is wearing off, and my body is starting to ache all over. I take stock of my surroundings. There's no one else in the park, and no sign of any police presence. I decide to take a chance and rest for a bit. As I sit there, trying to calm my racing thoughts, I start to remember flashes of what happened. The blood, the screaming, the sound of metal on flesh. It's like I'm watching a movie, but I'm both the actor and the audience. Suddenly, I hear footsteps approaching. I jump up, ready to run, but then I see that it's just a homeless man pushing a shopping cart filled with cans. He gives me a wary look, then nods and keeps walking. I realize that I must look like a mess, covered in blood and sweat and with wild eyes. I start to feel a glimmer of hope. Maybe I can blend in with the homeless, find some kind of sanctuary on the streets. I'm not proud of the thought, but it's better than being a hunted fugitive. I follow the homeless man at a distance, trying to see where he's going. He leads me to a small encampment near the edge of town where a few tents and tarps have been set up. I approach the man and try to explain my situation. He listens patiently, then offers me a blanket and a cup of soup. I take them gratefully, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. For the next few days, I stay in the encampment, trying to keep a low profile and avoid attracting any attention. I sleep on a pile of cardboard boxes, and I eat whatever scraps I can find. But despite my best efforts, I can't help but feel like a prisoner. I'm trapped in this small corner of the world, unable to leave or do anything to clear my name. As the days turn into weeks, I start to feel like I'm losing my mind. The memories of what happened haunt me, and the isolation is driving me to the brink of madness. I know I have to do something, anything, to break out of this cycle. But I have no idea where to start, or how to find the answers I need. All I can do is keep running, and hope that one day I'll be able to find the truth. Days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months. I'm still on the run, still searching for answers, and still haunted by the memories of what happened. Despite my best efforts to stay hidden, I know that the police are still looking for me. I hear whispers from other homeless people about sightings and close calls, and my paranoia grows with each passing day. I know that I have to find a way to clear my name, but I have no idea where to start. I have no money, no contacts, and no resources. One day, as I'm rummaging through a dumpster for food, I hear someone call out my name. I turn around and see a familiar face. It's an old friend from high school. I'm relieved to see a friendly face, but I'm also terrified. What if he turns me into the police? What if he's been watching me this whole time? He takes me to his apartment, and we sit down to talk. He's sympathetic to my situation, but he's also skeptical. He asks me what happened, and I try to explain, but it's like trying to put together a puzzle without all the pieces. He suggests that I hire a private investigator to help me find the truth. I balk at the idea. I have no money, and even if I did, I don't know if I can trust anyone. But as I think about it more, I realize that it might be my only hope. I agree to look into it, but I'm not optimistic. Days pass, and I'm still no closer to finding a way out of this mess. I'm living in constant fear, always looking over my shoulder and wondering if the police are closing in. Then, one day, I get a break. I'm walking down the street, lost in thought, when I see a poster on a telephone pole. It's for a missing person, a woman who disappeared around the same time as the mass killing at the police station. Something clicks in my brain, and I realize that I saw her that night. I remember her face, and I remember her name, Maria. I don't know how or why, but I know that she's connected to all of this. I start to ask around, trying to see if anyone else remembers seeing her that night. I get a few leads, and eventually I find someone who saw her leaving the police station with someone else. The description of the man matches someone I know, a former coworker who was always a little off. I start to investigate him, trying to find any kind of evidence that might link him to the crime. It's slow going, and I'm still living in constant fear, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I might be making progress. I know that I still have a long way to go, but I'm determined to clear my name, no matter what it takes. My investigation leads me to the former coworker's house, a rundown shack on the outskirts of town. I watch from a distance, trying to gather any information I can. I see him come and go, always looking over his shoulder, always acting suspiciously. I start to think that maybe I'm onto something. One night, I sneak into his house, hoping to find some kind of evidence. It's dark, and I can barely see, but I start to search through his belongings. Then, I hear a noise. I freeze and listen. It's footsteps, coming from down the hall. I hide behind a piece of furniture, clutching the scissors tightly in my hand. My heart is racing, and I can feel sweat trickling down my back. The footsteps get closer, and I can hear someone breathing heavily. I hold my breath, waiting for the worst. Suddenly, the door bursts open, and my former coworker comes charging in, brandishing a knife. He sees me, and a grin spreads across his face. "So, you figured it out," he says, as he advances on me. "I always knew you were too smart for your own good." I back away, trying to find an escape route, but he's too fast. He lunges at me with the knife, and I raise the scissors to defend myself. We engage in a deadly dance, with the fate of my life hanging in the balance. The adrenaline rush is intense, and my body is screaming for me to run, but I stand my ground. After what feels like an eternity, I manage to disarm him, and I pin him to the ground. He struggles and writhes, but I hold him down. "I didn't mean to do it," he cries, tears streaming down his face. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." I don't know whether to believe him or not. All I know is that I finally have some answers and some closure. The police arrive shortly thereafter, and I turn him over to them. They arrest him, and I'm taken to the hospital for treatment of my injuries. As I lay in my hospital bed, bandaged and bruised, I try to make sense of everything that's happened. I've been cleared of all charges, but at what cost? I realize that I may never be able to fully recover from what happened. The trauma will always be with me, a constant reminder of the horrors of that night. But I also know that I'm alive, and that's something. I'm free, and I have a chance to start over. As I drift off to sleep, I think about all the people who didn't make it out alive. The backpackers at the hostel, Maria, and all the others who were killed in the mass killing. I whisper a silent prayer for them and for myself. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing: I'll never forget what happened, and I'll never take my freedom for granted. It's been months since that fateful night, and I've slowly started to rebuild my life. The memories of what happened still haunt me, but I'm learning to live with them. I've found a small apartment, and I'm working at a local grocery store. It's not much, but it's a start. I've also started therapy, hoping to work through the trauma and find some kind of closure. It's not easy, but it's a necessary step. One day, as I'm leaving work, I see a familiar face. It's Maria's sister. I approach her tentatively, not knowing what to say. She sees me, and her eyes widen. "You're the one who was with her that night," she says, her voice trembling. I nod, not knowing what else to do. She takes a step closer, and I can see the pain and sadness etched on her face. "I just want to know what happened," she says, tears streaming down her cheeks. I want to know if she suffered, if she was scared. I take a deep breath, and I start to tell her everything. I tell her about the mass killing at the police station, and about how I saw Maria that night. I tell her about my investigation, and about how I found her killer. I tell her that he's been arrested, and that justice will be served. She listens patiently, nodding along. When I finish, she takes my hand and thanks me. "I can finally have some peace," she says. I don't know what to say, so I just squeeze her hand and smile. It's a small victory, but it's something. As I walk home, I start to think about everything that's happened. The trauma, the pain, the loss. But also the hope, the resilience, the strength. I realize that I've been through a lot, but I've also come out the other side. I've learned that I'm stronger than I ever thought possible, and that I have the power to make a difference. I vow to never forget what happened, and to never take my freedom for granted. But I also vow to move forward, to build a life that's worth living. As I turn the key in my apartment door, I smile. It's a small victory, but it's something. And that's enough for now.